completed the rear inspection of the home and the entire elevation of the siding. Do you see anything I missed? I hope so. That means you were paying attention. This is actually connected to the AC box. It's an AC shutoff switch. You open it, you'll see an actual fuse in there that lets you shut off the actual air conditioning unit. So that'd be one thing that was definitely missed. And the other, obviously the two dryer vents there. You want to address dryer vents to see, because you have to detach and reset them during the siding install, or at the very worst case scenario, if they're damaged, you would actually owe to remove and replace them if they have any cracks in the fence. Before we move over to the next elevation and take our shot over there, the other thing you want to take a look at is the fence. A lot of times if it's an old fence that's beat to death, if wind blew it over, wind caused that damage. Even if it's rotted out, it was still standing there, that is still a standing fence. It being blown over was the cause of the peril wind. Number two, you also want to look at the fence and see if it was stained, and it's got to look the same as what you find on, like we talked about, the swings. Seeing if there's any damage to that actual fence, if any of the stain was actually removed. In this case, it is not a stained fence and it's perfectly fine condition, but we want to make sure that we put in our documentation that there was no damage. Now that we've finished the rear elevation, we're going to move to the left elevation. Again, we start in front, right, rear, left. You're going to want to take a picture of an overview of the left side of the rear and the right side of the left elevation. So gutter to gutter. So where you see the direct TV, that's pretty much the left side where you want everything in this one shot. So with my camera, luckily it catches the whole entire span of the siding. If your camera can't do it, you're welcome to take your camera and move it into portrait mode and take a picture of the best of your ability of that entire elevation. So now we're on that left elevation. We're going to take an overview from the left side to the right side, and then we're going to move on to do the inspection from left to right. Again, we're going to look at the siding, make sure there's no damage to it. We did not find any damage on this house on this elevation to the siding. However, again, we'll talk about this a little bit. On why they're going to pay for this house of siding. But things to account for is the dryer vent. To detach and reset it. There's cable wires, there's labor hours to detach and reset those cables. And then we're going to move on to the actual window. And if you look in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, there's actually damage. We're going to take a picture of that screen. And you're going to see all these pictures on Company Cam. You're going to see all these showing up. You want to make sure that you address these pictures the same exact way that you see ours documented. We're going to keep moving right. And we're on our final draw. Obviously, we can't catch the fascia on this elevation because it's too high, and I don't expect you to put up a ladder that's 3 stories. What I do want is from the top of the roof, if you look over the edge, probably on your stomach, something where it's safe, put a light to the side of it, document the damage, and then label it that this was the left elevation fascia. So, because we're obviously not going to get it from here. Last but not least, we're looking at the downspout on the left elevation on the right side. When I want to obviously measure it out, roughly 25 feet on this one, and we're going to see if we find any damage. And of all the downspouts, this is the one downspout that has no damage. So we're going to take a picture of that downspout from further away, showing where it is, located on that elevation. Then we're going to document it saying no hail damage. So this way nobody has to ask questions about it later. Let's move on to the next picture, which is an overview of the left elevation and the front as our final picture. Back in my truck, obviously safety is something that's really important. That's why we provide you with these shoes. They're called Cougar Paws. They're shoes that are intended to do inspections like we do on roofs. They have a bottom that's made kind of like a pad that you get out of a pillow from a couch, like those yellow ones. A lot of times you see roofers sitting on top of those pillowcases. The reason they're doing it is it grips the shingle really well. And they come on these types of shoes, and they're actually Velcroed on. So if they actually eventually wear out, you can just replace the pad and continue using the shoe. Something I do like to point out is when you meet with an adjuster, do pay attention to their shoes. If you see brand new shoes that aren't scuffed, that haven't been really worn, kind of like these are brand new out of the box. And you see an adjuster wearing these, the pads are barely worn, everything's in perfect shape, they're probably new or they bought a new pair of shoes, which is very rare. Because typically once you buy these, they're not cheap. Most people don't sit there and replace them every year or every so often. Next, you want to make sure you grab your bungee cord because we want to bungee the ladder before we step foot on that ladder and make sure that we're going up on the roof safely. Let's go ahead and get these on. After you've tied your shoe, there's actually a Velcro strap on the front. A lot of times people ask me, what are these for? You take your shoelaces in, I always put them on an angle, and then you Velcro them down. This is to prevent them from going underneath your shoe while you're up on the roof, so you don't actually slip and trip over your own shoelaces. Other observations as we're going up the roof, we're still on the rear elevation. Underneath the shingles, you're supposed to have what they're called baby tins or step flashing, really known in the industry. And what those step flashings are is a piece of metal, usually about the width of the shingle, right underneath it, and it goes up the side of the wall. And on each, the reason why they call it step is on each individual shingle, on the top portion of it, they're putting that baby tin on there, and then they're putting the next shingle over it. The way we're going to look for it is we're going to see if there's any metal. I'll show you the picture of it. You're going to look for the metal tins in there. They're usually a mill finish, and that's how you'll be able to identify them right away. Other things to notate, the siding's attached on top of the roof. I don't know how you would be able to slide shingles and step flashing underneath this without this having to be detached and reset. So if they didn't pay for the siding, at the very least they should still be detaching and resetting the siding so you could put the step flashing in there. Anytime step flashing is pried or bent or deteriorated, it's required to be replaced per code. We'll move on up to the top of the roof and we're going to start documenting everything we find on this roof.